listening to the Sportz Hive podcast.
Oh, Wade, what a play! Wow.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sportz Hive podcast, where we provide you with all the buzz in the sports world. My name is Keric Jackson, today filling in for Jacob Hyde, and alongside me is Charlie Gutierrez, filling in for Luke Hoffman. Today is Monday, February 17th, 2020, and boy, do we have a big episode for you today. We'll talk about the NBA All-Star Weekend, which just passed us this past weekend. A little bit about the XFL, as they're 2 weeks in now. The NFL, free agency coming up in a month. And some news from the front offices across the NFL, NBA, and MLB. And then we're going to top it off with some college basketball game predictions for you. Let's get right into it. The NBA All-Star Weekend has come to a close, and there were a lot of big things that happened throughout it. Let's go way back to Saturday, starting off with the skills contest. Bam Adebayo took home the skills contest trophy this week, and I felt like that was more of a statement win for him, more than people may think. I believe that the future of the big man in the NBA was more so bought out by the win of Bam Adebayo. Charlie, what do you think about that win by Bam? Do you think the future of the big man is changing in the NBA?
I definitely think that big man is changing. You see, there's Andre Drummond. You know, he's the typical prototype, old school, big man, gets a lot of rebounds, but you can tell that the NBA is kind of shifting away from that. The Pistons were trying to shop him, and they got pretty much nothing from Cleveland. So that goes to show how how useless, not useless, but how less coveted those type of players are. So now it's definitely like the more athletic, the stretch bigs that are more coveted right now. And Bam Adebayo is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, to think that in this contest there were no guards that made it to the Final Four. It was all forwards. Chris Middleton, a small forward, Domantas Sabonis, a power forward, Bam Adebayo, a center, and Jason Tatum, a small forward as well. Jason Tatum went out in the first round. But all four of those players were forwards and none guards. So I felt like that was really big in terms of what it's saying about the big man. And even looking across the league, you've got guys like Brook Lopez, the Milwaukee Bucks, who's completely changed his game in the last couple of years from not being much of a three-point shooter to being one of the biggest pieces on the Bucks because he helps Giannis spread the floor.
Right, you can see the shift. You pretty much have to shoot to start as a big man in today's NBA. You have to be athletic. You have to be able to have some sort of handles, and you can just tell that that's where it's shifting.
I definitely agree. Now looking on to the three-point contest, Buddy Hield ended up being the winner after beating Devin Booker in the final round. Now, Devin Booker wasn't supposed to be in this game. It was supposed to be Damian Lillard, but Damian Lillard's injury cost him from going there, meaning Devin Booker got to take that spot and show the world why he should have been in the All-Star game, perhaps. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Devin Booker was definitely snubbed from the All-Star game. I don't think he should have gotten over Dame, but I still think he was definitely snubbed. And making it to the finals against Buddy, the entertaining finals they had, just proves, how improved Booker is, especially since his rookie year. He keeps elevating his game each and every year, and this is a year he finally gets to prove it.
Yeah, I agree. But even a third-year, fourth-year player like Buddy Hield, to be able to take this trophy from him.
Yeah.
And Buddy Hield's not really the best three-point shooter out there, but he definitely can knock down the three when he needs to.
Yeah, definitely.
And he really proved that in the contest. There's no doubt.
I thought Trae Young would come through, but he just had an awful.
A lot of people were thinking that.
Night.
Those deep three, the Mountain Dew three-point shot that were 3 points. A lot of people were thinking Trae Young could have stolen that just because he makes a lot of those in games. But even a guy, going back to the big man conversation, like Davis Bertans was able to make it to the final round with a score of 26 in the first round, which is outstanding.
And then
especially
last year, Joe Harris won, small forward. Just keeps on telling you how much the big man is taking over the NBA.
evolving in the NBA. Yep. And now the talk of the town from Saturday, the dunk contest. The dunk contest ended up being number 1, 2, and 3 trending on Twitter after the way it finished last night. Derrick Jones Jr. was named the winner of the dunk contest. And a lot of people questioned that. A lot of people, especially those who watched it, had to think about whether or not that was the right call by the judges, had to question how the judging goes in the dunk contest. Should there be more dunkers in the dunk contest rather than simply celebrities?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Aaron Gordon was definitely the talk of the town at the end of that. Afterwards, he said, quote, "It's a wrap. I feel like I should have 2 trophies." Do you agree that Aaron Gordon should have 2 trophies right now?
Oh yeah, definitely. He had the better dunks when he went against Zach LaVine, and he was better overall in my mind than Derrick Jones Jr. And I don't blame him for not wanting to try and win it again, because I can't even imagine how much work it comes in that he puts into to deciding which moves to do, which what goes into it. So I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of it definitely comes down to having that creative mindset at the end, because most of the time these guys are preparing for 2, 3, maybe 4 dunks that they could possibly use during this competition. And they're completely changeable, especially depending on how judges choose to score them.
Right.
And there were talks with Taco Fall after Aaron Gordon's dunk saying that was not planned. Pat Connaughton's dunk with Giannis was not planned. So a lot of that just came down to the creative mindset. Now, one of the biggest talks around Twitter was that the judges had an agreement to make it a tie prior to the Aaron Gordon dunk. Now, the judges, who were Dwayne Wade, Scottie Pippen, Chadwick Boseman, celebrity, Candace Parker, and Common, also famous Chicago rapper celebrity. Those were the 5 judges, and they had agreed prior to the Aaron Gordon dunk that they would try to make it a tie. Afterwards, Common suggested, after confirming that they tried to make it a tie, that somebody went rogue. Now, does that make it fair judging, per se, if they were discussing prior to the dunk that it should have been a tie?
Hell no. Get Common and Candace Parker's ass out of the judges. That is being blunt. I don't know. I just don't think the scoring was good at all. Like, some dunks were way too easy, 50s. They're giving easy 50s, and then other dunks that should have been 50s weren't. So it just was super inconsistent the whole night.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look back at all the dunks, some of them that weren't 50s seemed like they should have been. Others that were maybe should not have been. So you think that maybe something had to be behind the way that they were scoring some of these dunks. Like, they wanted to see a bit more from Aaron Gordon, like what happened last time, just try to extend it a couple more rounds and all that stuff. But say we were able to accept the fact that they tried to make it a tie, there were 3 people on that last one who made it a 9-point dunk rather than a 10. And that was Dwayne Wade, Chadwick Boseman, and Scottie Pippen. Now, Common, like I said before, Common said that one of those 3 went rogue. And if you had to choose one of them, who do you think it would be and why?
The first thing that comes to mind would be Chadwick Boseman. But since he's a celebrity, I don't think he really would have the balls to change it. I think Dwayne Wade would be the most likely that would have changed it, in my mind.
I know it's a lot of speculation, because a lot of people were showing that Chadwick Boseman had also put a 9 on Derrick Jones Jr.'s dunk. So you could kind of lean towards Dwayne Wade in that sense, especially because Derrick Jones Jr. is a Miami Heat player, and obviously Dwayne Wade, Miami Heat all-star, champion, legend, whatever you want to call it. So all that aside, it's over. Derrick Jones Jr. won. Aaron Gordon, did he get snubbed? Did he not get snubbed? That's up for you guys in the audience to decide.
Definitely got snubbed.
Let's move on to the All-Star game that just happened last night. Now, boy, was this an All-Star game. Team LeBron, much like last season, versus Team Giannis. And Team LeBron, after being down through three quarters, was able to come back and pull it off in arguably the best fourth quarter in All-Star game history. I mean, the hustle, the energy, the defense, that's not something you see every day from an All-Star game, especially in the fourth quarter. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. This was the perfect fourth quarter to an All-Star game. This is definitely the best All-Star game, not as a whole, because the first three quarters were a typical All-Star game. Not much defense, a lot of chucking up shots, a lot of alley-oops. But the fourth quarter was amazing. The crowd was into it. The players were clearly into it. The bench was into it. The refs were making, pivotal calls. It was just really good basketball and really fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, since you mentioned the refs, I mean, look at some of them, and a couple of the offensive fouls that they called late in the game, they really called way after they blew the whistle.
Yeah,
So
like the one on
part of me
Lowry, against Harden.
the one on Lowry and then the one against Lowry later on.
Mm.
It almost comes to show that they really needed time to think about it because they wanted to make the right call there. And a lot of people aren't really fans of that. A lot of people don't like refs taking their time to process everything that happened to make the correct call. And from my point of view, at least, I felt like both of those were the correct call at the end of the day.
Yeah, they were. They definitely
Right.
were.
Now, do you think that the NBA should keep this format? Do you think that the fourth quarter should stay like this and immortalize Kobe Bryant in such a way? Or do you think that they should go back to the regular format?
They should definitely keep this format. They should not go back to the format. And if they do, Adam Silver should lose his job because, you can tell even like on social media, people were loving this fourth quarter. And you can't take away something that people love, especially after the All-Star game has been like so irrelevant the past like 20 years,
Yeah, I completely agree. I felt like on top of that, this format, even if you go quarters 1 through 3 like that, to be able to support the charity of your choice in that city and have them donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to that charity simply by winning a quarter, I feel like that's not only great for the league, it's great for the fans, it's great for the community. And the amount of views I felt like were probably really high, especially getting towards that fourth quarter. And I feel like keeping this format could definitely make that go up and make the All-Star game just as popular as it has been in years past.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Now, Kawhi Leonard ended up winning the first ever Kobe Bryant Kia All-Star Game MVP award. Now, Adam Silver on Saturday declared that this would be the Kobe Bryant MVP award for this year and possibly years forward. Is this the right place to immortalize Kobe Bryant? And if not, where else would you do it?
That's a tough question because I don't want to say the All-Star game is irrelevant, but I just think Kobe is much higher than an All-Star game MVP, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But
completely.
I don't know where they would fit Kobe, an award with Kobe's name in. I guess I would just have to look at more of the awards and see if like where he would fit in. But I just think he's way bigger than just an All-Star game MVP.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been talking with a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I'm close with, about how to immortalize Kobe in a trophy. And you look at the NFL, you look at the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, because Walter Payton, you could argue, was a lot like how we saw Kobe Bryant. He was considered one of the best at his time at running back for the Chicago Bears. But then off the field was where he ended up thriving.
Just like Kobe.
In Chicago, just like Kobe. So personally, I feel like some sort of NBA Kobe Bryant Man of the Year award could go a long way.
Yeah.
Introducing a brand new award to show just how well these players are doing in the communities. And you could do it the exact same way that the NFL does it. Each team nominates one player. And at the end of the year, during their award show, go ahead and name one of the players the Kobe Bryant Man of the Year. And I feel like that's arguably one of the best ways that you can immortalize Kobe in the NBA besides sending him to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. That'll be almost a perfect tribute to Kobe and what he stood for as a person and, on and off the court.
Absolutely. And I feel like Kobe Bryant off the court was just somebody that is a role model to many. And I really appreciated the way that Adam Silver chose to go with this year's All-Star game. I think this weekend was a very successful weekend in terms of the future of the NBA. And let's have fun with the rest of the season.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the XFL. The XFL is now 2 weeks in, 2 very successful weeks in. It doesn't seem to be any problems yet, and we have a couple teams that seem to be leading the pack at this point. You've got the DC Defenders, who are 2-0 after a statement win against the New York Guardians, keeping them shut out. And the Houston Roughnecks, after a close game with the St. Louis Battlehawks, are also 2-0. Those two seem to be emerging as favorites. Which one do you think one of those teams is going to win the championship, or do you think it'll be a team in the field?
Yeah, in a league like the XFL, a quarterback can make all the difference. It can make or break a team, just like it does in the NFL. And PJ Walker is clearly the best player in the entire league right now. And I think he's good enough right now that where he can carry Houston into a championship.
All right, I can definitely agree with that. To contrast PJ Walker, though, you've got Cardale Jones of DC. Now, Cardale Jones is 13-0 all-time as a starter, which simply thinking about that is crazy to think about. 11 games in college, won a national championship with Ohio State, and is now 2-0 in the XFL. So Cardale Jones and PJ Walker seem to be favorites as the MVP. For PJ Walker's case, he is a quarterback that's currently leading the league in touchdowns, as he's got more touchdowns to his name than almost every other team combined. What are your thoughts on that?
Right, PJ Walker's just balling, 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. I think he can make a case to come back to the NFL. I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know how the NFL is going to evaluate, the talent from the XFL and to debate whether or not they should offer or extend a contract to some of these players. But I think he's definitely making a case to come back. And Cardale Jones, it's hard to believe that he never even got a start in the NFL. And if he keeps this up, as long as he takes care of the ball, I think he too could get an offer from an NFL team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And the NFL will have that time to evaluate all of the XFL players after, obviously, the championship game this week, given that it makes it that far. Speaking of the NFL, let's move on to them. We are now just about a month away from free agency being open and available, and we've heard a lot of names about upcoming free agents, a lot of big names. And I would argue that some of the top 10 or people that would be included in the top 10 are quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Ryan Tannehill, and then other players like Jadeveon Clowney, Amari Cooper, Chris Jones, Byron Jones, and AJ Green.
Yeah.
Now, those are, like I said, those are 10 really big names in the NFL, all of which can help a team tremendously. Just from those teams alone, who do you think stays with their team? Who do you think leaves their team for somebody else, and where do you think they'll go?
So I think Tom Brady is not coming back to New England. I think he's going to the West Coast. Either Las Vegas or the Chargers seem like a really good fit for him, especially at this point in his career. With Phillip Rivers out of Los Angeles, I think that's a great fit for Tom Brady. Chris Jones, I think, finds a way to stay in Kansas City, which will be hard, though, because Kansas City also has to take into account how much they're gonna pay Patrick Mahomes, which it's gonna be a lot of money to keep him. I think Clowney stays with Seattle. Byron Jones, I think he stays with Dallas. Shaq Barrett, I don't think he'll stay in Tampa. But yeah, that's just some of the big names.
Yeah, and I mean, looking down the list, a guy like Dak Prescott, you think that Dallas has to keep a guy like him, even if they have to
Yeah.
franchise tag him. You can almost guarantee Dak Prescott staying.
If you were Jerry Jones, would you put priority on Dak Prescott or Amari Cooper?
I feel like I definitely put more priority on a guy like Dak Prescott. I mean,
I agree.
this guy definitely came in as their franchise quarterback, and there's a reason why they got rid of Tony Romo so early. It's because that 4th-round pick ended up being a superstar and ultimately leading them to a playoff run, a playoff push, and almost a couple championships. But they obviously fell short of the head coach, and yada yada yada. The Cowboys are still back where they are now. Even looking ahead to a guy like Drew Brees, you would also think that the New Orleans Saints have to keep a guy like him.
Yeah.
But they almost have a choice.
Between Brees, Taysom Hill, and Bridgewater, I think they keep Brees, they keep Hill, they let Bridgewater go.
Yeah, I agree, because Bridgewater definitely proved something to the NFL by being undefeated as a starter for a big team like New Orleans, especially when Drew Brees was away. So I'm thinking that Teddy Bridgewater, of those three, definitely has to move. But like I said, that's a choice that the Saints have to make ultimately. I think one of the biggest questionable names here is AJ Green. Obviously, he was out for this entire season due to injury, and now he's available. I mean, we see how poor of a season the Bengals had, and now they've got the first overall pick, potentially could be Joe Burrow to fill that quarterback void. But AJ Green's status is almost unknown.
I don't think there's any chance he stays in Cincinnati. They have a decent core with Tyler Boyd, John Ross, Tate. Is that I don't know if that's the other two. Yeah. So that's a good trio. I think Green is gone. To me, Green makes good. He would be a good fit in Las Vegas. He would be a good fit in New England. He would be a great fit in Green Bay. So there's a bunch of options AJ Green can go to finish out the rest of his career with. I think he picks best quarterback, best situation, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. AJ Green deserves to be on a team. Obviously, that great of a receiver. It's just dependent on where he wants to go, who's willing to give him the money, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's move on to one of the bigger news. Myles Garrett was officially reinstated by the NFL front office. And as soon as he did that, he claimed right out that, once again, Mason Rudolph used a racial slur during his altercation late in the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. To which Rudolph replied that was a bold-faced lie and a trash attempt at making him look bad. Now, who would you believe in this situation? Do you believe that Myles Garrett's telling the truth, or do you believe he's trying to set Mason Rudolph up?
Honestly, I don't know who to believe, because I saw Mason Rudolph said he would consider filing a lawsuit against Myles Garrett for these claims. I just don't know who to believe. It's such a, unless they have mics on the players, I don't know how you can trust who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's hard to. I feel like it's easy for Myles Garrett to claim that, given that it is an African American defensive player and a Caucasian quarterback in that situation. So it's easy to sort of make those claims,
especially in his position.
Yeah. But at the same time, you can look at it from the other standpoint and show how, or even connect the dots with the coaching staff and the whole Rooney Rule with needing to talk to African
at least one African
coaches.
Yeah.
And the fact that Eric Bieniemy or Matthew Saleh don't have head coaching jobs now.
Yeah, it's a joke that Matthew Saleh
Yeah,
doesn't have a job as a head coach. It's ridiculous.
yeah, you can kind of see how it could go either way in the situation, but I guess all we can do right now is sit back and watch, see
Mm.
it all unfold.
Even LaFleur, I'm not saying he didn't deserve the Packers job, but he had pretty much no, top of the line coaching experience. And the fact that he
Right.
was hired at one of the most premier jobs in the NFL, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Regardless, like I said, we got to sit back and wait this one out
Mm.
and see who wins in the end. Now, recently, we had some updates from front offices of the three major leagues in sports: the NFL, the NBA, the MLB. All released statements coming directly from each commissioner. Roger Goodell of the NFL and the front office have been suggesting a potential 17-game season rather than a 16-game season. And in talks with the NFLPA, they have suggested that they wait until at least the 2023 season to consider doing such a move because the majority of players in the NFL are currently under contract until 2021. Now, Richard Sherman, who's a member of the NFL Players Association, was one of the most vocal in this situation. He talked about how the NFL preaches safety, 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 this, safety, that. Yet in this instance, it seems as though safety has a price tag. Now, first of all, do you think that a 17-game season is a good or a bad idea for the
Uh, at first thought, I think it's a bad idea, but I could see it happening if they get rid of one preseason game. But if they keep the 4 preseason schedule and then add an extra game on top of that, I think that's ridiculous.
NFL? Yeah, I definitely can agree with Sherman in terms of player safety because a lot of players take that week 17 game, which is game 16, obviously off.
Mm,
Especially if it's a team that is in the playoffs, has a bye coming up already. That's the time we want to rest those players because obviously you don't want to risk injury. And such a high contact game like football leads to way too many injuries, and
right.
day by day they still try to figure out how to eliminate most of those now.
Mm.
Looking at that, who do you think is the front office favoring in this situation? Because given that, you know, they do preach safety. I mean, a lot of the advancement that the NFL has gone through has had to do with safety. But in this instance, it seems like they could be favoring themselves over the players. They could be trying to favor the players in terms of giving them more play time. They could be trying to favor the fans in terms of giving them more to watch. What do you think that the NFL front office is favoring in this situation?
Yeah, so they do preach safety. You see it in the penalties. They try and protect players as much as they can, especially defensive players. So I give them that, but adding an extra game for, in my mind, no reason other than another week to gain more profits. I just see it as ridiculous, putting the players at risk of more injuries. I don't know. But I think eventually they're going to side with Richard Sherman because Richard Sherman has always been a vocal leader of the NFLPA, and how can you not trust the man? He went to Stanford. He's obviously a
Right.
genius. He knows what he's talking about, and obviously the players trusting him too to be their vocal leader and to stand up for them. So I think eventually they're going to side with Richard Sherman and the NFLPA.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the NFL seems to kind of be favoring themselves, mostly in this situation, um, especially because it does seem like they're trying to put a price tag on these players in terms of a Week 17 high risk of injury, obviously, because that's another game where injuries could happen fresh before the playoffs. That's where an injury could happen mid-season, where it should have been a game that never happened. Plus, the whole idea behind an even season has really made it interesting across the league. A lot of
Hmm.
teams having like 8-8 records, getting into the playoffs.
Right.
I feel like just keeping it even is the best way to go. Obviously, more football is what fans want. That's kind of what the XFL is doing right now. But I completely agree. I think the NFL should be keeping a 16-game season and including that bye in there.
And more is not always better. Sometimes it's good to keep fans wanting more because that's what keeps them drawing in. For a new
Right.
season.
Now let's move on to the NBA. Adam Silver has come out recently with more talks during this All-Star weekend about his plans to play around with the season, per se. He discussed an in-season tournament that would have a $1 million bonus, you could call it, which would also lower the regular season to a 78-game regular season. And as well, he also suggested playing games for the 7 and 8 seeds. So I'm assuming that would be something like a 7 versus 8, and then a 9 versus 10, or something like that.
Would it be a 1-game series?
I would think so. Yeah, I think it'd just be a 1-game deal at the end of the season just to play with them. But then finally, he also is talking about reseeding the Final Four. And during his interview this All-Star weekend, he mentioned that he does see all of these coming up in the near future, potentially by the 2021-2022 NBA season, which is obviously only 2 seasons away. Let's start with the in-season tournament. Obviously, that would be, like I said, a $1 million bonus tournament, and that would have to revise the regular season to a 78-game regular season. What's your take on that?
Is that tournament? Is it like players? Is it based on like the individual players or like team? Is it like
I
team-based?
believe he wanted to make it a team-based tournament mid-season.
Okay. I'm indifferent on all of these NBA changes. I mean, if it means shortening the regular season to 78, I wouldn't mind it. And I think players would play hard in that tournament too. It would be good entertainment. So, but I'm really indifferent about it.
Yeah, I mean, to determine whether or not it's good or bad for the NBA, it's kind of, like I said, a toss-up because I mean, I respect Adam Silver. He's considering both ends of the spectrum. He's
Mm,
not saying let's add a tournament, let's add playing games. He's suggesting that we also lower the regular season to a short amount of games because he obviously takes into consideration the health of the players. But he also kind of wants to appeal to the fans. He wants something that the fans are going to possibly enjoy. And like I said, the $1 million bonus will benefit the players. You'll get more competitiveness in this tournament per se. And then obviously the play-in for the 7 and 8 seeds kind of makes things more interesting heading into the
yeah,
playoffs,
that'd
especially
be
if you're
cool.
cusp. Because yeah, you could get a team that's probably like 5 games behind in the playoffs as a 9 seed, and they can somehow still get in because of the play-in seed. So I feel like Adam
Right.
Silver definitely took a lot of consideration into all 3 of these, and I hope that the National Basketball Players Association really takes these things into
Mm.
consideration.
I really favor the playing games because ever since Major League Baseball added the wild card games,
Yep.
the playoffs just got so much more exciting. Because the MLB playoffs are already super exciting, but that just added another level of excitement. A 1-game
Right.
playoff in baseball, it's basically a toss up, and same goes for NBA. So I think that would be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, the way that you look at standings from that point forward would be completely different because
Hmm.
then you're like, okay, I'm a 10 seed right now, and I could possibly still get into the playoffs.
Right.
All right, and now let's go to Major League Baseball. We all know what's been happening with the cheating scandal that has been going on with the Houston Astros and their most recent championship bid. Rod Manfred, who had suspended the managers and who the managers were eventually fired by the teams, has defended his decision on what he did with the Astros. Um, do you think that that's the right call by the commissioner of the MLB?
No, I do not believe that Rod Manfred made the correct decision on the Houston Asterisks. Um, in soccer, recently, Manchester City was given a 2-year ban from
Yeah,
UEFA Champions League for overstating, for financial reasons. They didn't even
right.
cheat to win. And here, the Houston Astros admitted to cheating for 2 years, maybe 3 years, getting to the World Series 2 out of those 3 years, and winning a World Series. I think they should be stripped of the World Series title. I think there should be a ban. I think the players should be fined. And he's just like giving them a little slap on the hand. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I saw what happened with Manchester City in the
Mm-hmm.
UEFA Champions League. And just to hear that that's a 2-year ban is absolutely insane
Mm-hmm.
um, for something like the financial reasons. And I think it has something to do with charity work. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I definitely feel like Manfred kind of held back in a way. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like he kind of saw this as something that he's not really used to seeing, um, or he never thought that kind of would happen this way. Because I mean, you get the
Mm-hmm.
typical cheating stuff like the foreign substances on pitchers or like the pine tar on the bats, stuff like that. But
Yeah. And
things
like
like this, where
you get
oh,
cases of like some teams blaming or like accusing other teams of stealing signs from like second base, the base runner, but
right,
this just takes it to a whole new level.
yeah, using technology to take signs is
Right.
something that obviously the MLB hasn't had to deal with in all of their years. Um, but I definitely agree with you. I feel like the punishment here should have been much higher.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is stripping of the title, um, fining of the team, of the players, suspensions of the team, whatever you need to do. But I
Right.
definitely agree that Rod Manfred probably held back a little bit on the punishment for the team.
Yeah, because people say, "Oh, like how much can this really help the Astros, like stealing signs?" But people don't understand that hitting is, it should be impossible, but knowing what pitch is coming, that takes off so much of the burden for hitters. Uh, I don't know. I just don't think the Astros are getting enough punishment at all.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. All right, to close out this episode, we're going to look ahead to some of the upcoming NCAA action that's coming up. So tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, we've got a Big 12 matchup between Kansas and Iowa State. Obviously, Kansas is coming into this game as the number 3 seed, and Iowa State is an unranked team. But even if those rankings change by the time we get to this game, we know that a lot of the top 5 teams in the NCAA have been going down to these unranked teams, and the entire
Mhm.
top 25 is being mixed up. Do you think that happens here with Kansas and Iowa State?
Uh, Not, especially this is an Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas. Kansas is
Yep.
having a great season. I think they keep it up. They beat Iowa State pretty handily,
Yeah, I have
I'd
to
say.
agree. I think Kansas is definitely taking this one. That game, like I said, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Um, now tomorrow, 6:30 Eastern, I've got a Big Ten matchup, a huge Big Ten matchup between two on-fire teams, 13th ranked Penn State and 22nd ranked Illinois. Now, Illinois seems to be a surprise this season. Um, just in general, for them to be ranked and for them to be one of the top teams in the Big Ten. Um, as we near March Madness, just
Mhm.
under a month away from the big tournament, who do you have in this pivotal Big Ten match?
This is super tough because in the Big Ten, you really don't know what you're gonna get. The Big Ten is stacked. Any team can win on any night. I'm gonna give the advantage to the home team. I think Penn State gets it done. The home team in the Big Ten wins most of the time, and I think they continue their
You know,
winning
I'm gonna go
ways against
against you here.
Illinois.
Actually, I think that Illinois is gonna have that last little push to give themselves a good bid heading into the Big Ten tournament and ultimately the national championship
Mm,
tournament. I think Illinois barrels in on the road. Penn State kind of overlooks them, and Illinois pulls it off, wins it by maybe 3 or 4. All right. So tomorrow night, then at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have a big SEC matchup between 12th ranked Kentucky and 25th ranked LSU. LSU was just recently added to the top 25 because they have been on a tear recently in the SEC games. Who do you have in this one? Do you have Kentucky at home or LSU on the road?
This one is tough too. But
it's
wait, is it at LSU or is it at Kentucky?
Yes.
It's at Kentucky. Playing on the road is so tough in college basketball. The home teams have such a big advantage. I got to go with the Wildcats on this one.
Yeah,
I just think they're a better
I
team
think
too
I'm gonna go
overall.
Kentucky here too. I think Kentucky's got a well-rounded starting five and then a solid bench to complement it. I just definitely think that they're gonna start going on a run here to finish off their season. And now one more game, a huge game in the Big East tomorrow night at 8:30. We will go to Milwaukee to see Marquette take on Creighton in a huge Big East matchup, especially late in the season. Who are you taking in this one?
This one's tough too because the Big East, just like the Big Ten, is pretty stacked, and all the teams, top to bottom, show that they're capable of winning, no matter who they're playing. And so this battle of ranked teams, they're playing at the Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee. I got to go with Marquette in this one. They had a close loss against Villanova. They showed they have a lot of grit. They were down 17. They only lost by 1.
Yeah, I definitely
think they get it
agree
done
that
at home
Marquette's
against
got
Creighton.
a huge advantage in this game. That home crowd at brand new stadium, Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee, is going to play huge dividends for them, especially against a hot Creighton team, the Big East. I just feel like Marquette tends to thrive at home when it comes to these Big East games because they've got a beautiful student section and a great crowd behind them. All right, that just about does it for us today. We thank you for listening to the Sportz Hive podcast. Jacob Hyde and Lucas Hoffman should be here for you guys on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in Wednesday, Friday, and then always on Mondays at 1 Eastern on YouTube and the Anchor app. So please follow our social media in the description below for more content. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your spectacular Monday, and we will see you guys next time right here on the Sportz Hive podcast.